three.
Hello, everyone. Sufit here. I'm here today with Charles B. Ticker, estate mediator and author of Bobby Gets Bubkus, Navigating the Sibling Estate Fight. Charles, welcome.
Hi.
So I have an interesting question for you, Charles. So in COVID time, not so very long ago, it seemed like the whole world switched to online everything, online dance classes, online guitar lessons, online trials, and online mediations. They were conducted on Zoom. And what happened after COVID ceased to be such a threat and people were getting back to their normal lives and they're going back to real dance classes and real guitar lessons, for some reason, mediations tended to stay on Zoom. And now you have this nice hybrid or this mixture that some are on Zoom and some are in person, depending on the person's preferences. So my question to you is, what's your sense? Do mediations on Zoom work better, or do mediations in person work better?
Excellent question. I think there's pros and cons to both formats. Uh, what I like about Zoom is that because mediations, at least the ones I do in state disputes, have a tendency to go overtime and sometimes into evening hours or late evening hours or very occasionally early morning hours. It's nice to know that when you're finished, you just turn off your computer and walk next door, and that's it. You're home, and I think that speaks for all the parties. On the other hand, there are a lot of people that argue, and I could see the point that having an in-person interaction cannot be replicated by Zoom. The ironic thing is, though, even if you're doing an in-person mediation, for most of the day, the parties are not interacting with each other directly. They're in their own boardrooms with their counsel, and so they don't really see each other during the day. But I am seeing an uptick in requests for in-person mediations, though the vast majority that we're doing are still by Zoom.
And do you think that the Zoom mediations are taken with the same degree of seriousness uh, as the in-person ones? Is there some difference in that way?
Well, it was my sense that there was no difference, that everyone participated in the Zoom meeting as if it were a serious business meeting. I certainly saw that from counsel and from the clients. But I recently had an opportunity at an in-person social gathering of lawyers to speak with a lawyer who I've worked with doing mediations. And he mentioned to me that they're finding that their clients, when they're doing it on Zoom, are not taking the meeting as seriously as they would if they were in person, and therefore they've asked their clients, if we're going to do a Zoom mediation, we want you in our boardroom together with us. So I hadn't heard that before, but it's an interesting point.
Does it make sense to you? Like, why do you think that people would be taking it less seriously?
Well, maybe if they're at home sitting in their pajamas, or they're not coming to a business meeting, they don't think of it as important as a meeting would be, at court or in a lawyer's boardroom where you dress for the occasion. Um, I haven't gotten that sense, but when I'm doing it as a mediator, and maybe I'm coming from at it from a different perspective, and I'm viewing the process. Yes, it's a formal process, mediation, but mediation's not court. Mediation is not examinations under oath. And my whole approach to mediation is to make it somewhat less formal. So I don't have a problem with that. But this
Right.
was an interesting perspective, from this counsel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's other factors too. In a Zoom mediation, you don't know who else is there just off camera, if it could be a spouse or somebody, maybe even
Yes,
somebody who's not
I
participating.
I was thinking of that. I was going to mention that that is an issue with Zoom technology, that um, we are really relying on the integrity and honesty of the participants. When you ask them, is there anybody else in the room with you? And they say no. because of the confidentiality, and it's a real issue. And then sometimes you find out during the day, like you sort of see a shadow in the, or you see someone opening up the refrigerator because they're in their kitchen. I said, who was that? And then you have to let the other side know, well, the neighbor's been sitting in helping out with the technology, and that can cause real issues. I mean, we spend a lot of time sometimes at these mediations just sorting out who's going to be allowed to sit in. Is the spouse going to be allowed to sit in if they're not a party? Is a neighbor, is a friend, if some is their technical guru going to be able to help them with the computer going to be allowed to sit in? And we usually sort it out. They all have to sign the mediation agreement as observers if they're not parties to make sure that they maintain confidentiality. But it's a real problem. So one of the advantages of doing it in person, you know who's there.
Yeah.
And that's something we cannot guarantee 100% with Zoom technology.
And it's not being recorded uh if you're in person.
Right. Even though, our contract is very clear, no recording, and yes, that is an issue.
Yeah, not to turn people off, Zoom mediations, because
Right.
there are tons of pros.
But I think one of these days we should do a poll because I really would like to hear from participants and council, how they feel about the two formats. Uh, my guess is that the preference would still be leaning towards um, the virtual mediations because it is more convenient. And it's particularly, when you have clients in different jurisdictions or different time zones. We've done a number of mediations where clients are in Europe or in the Western US and we're in Toronto, let's say. And, doing it on Zoom is the only way to do it, right? So if they're in different cities or countries even. So that's a big plus. Another interesting conversation I had with another council at this gathering was the courts, of course, have really adopted this Zoom technology. Yes, some trials and appeals are being done in person, but for the estates bar, most of the stuff is still being done on Zoom. And the,
Really?
the Chief Justice now apparently, I don't know, maybe is thinking, so I hear is thinking, how do we get people to come back to the courtroom? I mean, law firms are having the same problem. How do we get people back to the office? And there's pushback, right? Because people got
Yeah.
used to working at home. So I don't think we're going to see mediations go completely in person. I think there will be an uptick. I think we'll see more because I think people are craving that personal interaction. But I still think the virtual technology is here to stay.
Yeah, and you make a really good point about people in different jurisdictions, different time zones, people in Europe, certainly that it's a lot better than a plane ticket and a hotel bill. Well, our guest today has been Charles B. Ticker, estate mediator and author of Bobby Gets Bubkus, Navigating the Sibling Estate Fight. Charles had mentioned maybe doing a poll to see what people's preferences are. So look for that in coming days or weeks. Charles, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.